Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the APM Wippen SIG's International Women's Day webinar. Really excited to be presenting this because I know we have quite an international audience here with us today. And so first of all, we have an introduction to Wippen SIG and International Women's Day. And then there'll be a session on the Press for Progress, and we'll be looking at Project Management Women internationally. And that presentation, the first two presentations will be by myself, Teri Okoro, and then we'll move on to the Strategic Integration presentation and the question and answer. Linky will be, Linky van der Merwe. We're really pleased and excited to have her here with us today. She'll be doing the main presentation, and together we'll be running the question and answer session and looking forward to the range of questions which you'll be putting through to us. I'll move on now to APM Women in Project Management SIG. The SIG is actually 25 years old this year, and it was set up 25 years ago to address the development and promotion of women working in project management environments, and it works to maximize the availability of expertise in the project management profession. This we also do with the general project management profession, and we do also like to work with our male colleague because we know together we can make a change. We have four key strategy aims in which we try to advance women in project management. The first is promoting a powerful profile, and we do this by getting visibility in the press through our events. We also promote a no barrier culture, trying to engage and encourage that people have more inclusive initiatives within their organizations and practices. We engage with and respond to project professionals. So we have joint events with different project professionals, and also trying to build a collaborative community. So we also work with like-minded organizations. We have a regular newsletter, and if you want to receive that, then you'd need to join the WiPM SIG on the APM website. We have events like webinars and also face-to-face events. The big date on our calendar is the annual conference, and the 2018 conference will be on the 25th of September, and we are already taking bookings for that on the early bird. And also we are active on social media, LinkedIn and Twitter. So there's different ways to engage with us, and we love to engage with others as well. So we look for greater engagement with people on the webinar who are not already engaged with us. And then I'll just move on to address International Women's Day. This is actually the third time that the WiPM SIG have an activity, and we know that this is going to be an ongoing annual activity. But first of all, we want to join with other women in project management around the world, not only to celebrate today, but also to look at the context of women in project management. And you can all see, those of you who are logged on online, you can see different percentages there for women in project management around the world. The data comes from various surveys, ranging from about 2016 to the present. So you can see that in Germany, it's 16%, in France, 22%, the UK is 28%, Africa, 32%, and USA, 35%. Now, this sort of masks a range because we know that women in certain sectors like construction have a lower representation. And so if we can just click on the next slide, we know that the situation of women varies depending on the sectors. I've already mentioned construction as one with lower representation, but that's something which we are looking to address through different initiatives. We also find that women across the world from different surveys are often running and managing projects which offer lower value than their male colleagues. And this has come to light time and time again on different surveys. Another aspect which is particular to women is the fact that quite often the accreditation levels are lower than their males. And then we all know about the gender gap which exists for women. And we have examples from the UK and Africa survey. And you can see that the women are bunched at the lower end of the scales in the UK survey. This one indicated is 2016, but it's similar from the 2018 survey. And also on the next graph, which is the one from the Africa survey, you can see that the women are bunched up there at the lowest end on the left-hand side of that slide. Now that you've heard all of this, I'm sure it's not really new to you. We'd like to launch a quick poll for those who are listening today, just to let us know, what do you personally find has a challenge in your own career development? So we'll go on to the poll. It will be up just briefly, and then you'd be able to click. So if we can do that quickly, for you to indicate which you feel are the areas of challenge for you in your own career development. The poll is open now.
So the responses came in, and for the first option, challenging projects or experience, came in at 21%. Qualifications was 4%. Progression route is not transparent was 40%. Culture not inclusive or the work-life balance was 26%, and none of the above was 8%. We're now going to move on to a second poll.
Yeah, so the second poll is about making a difference to actually alter this existing disparity and progress that women find in their profession. So if you please participate in that poll now.
Thank you. And the responses for making a difference to impact disparity and progress were transparent pay gap reporting at 27%, targets being monitored at 7%, inclusive culture and processes or role models was 28%, support or encouragement, e.g. mentor or sponsor, was 33%, and none of the above was 5%.
Okay, so those are quite interesting results to the polls. So just going back to highlight that the highest for the first question was the progression route not being transparent, people not knowing how they can actually move up the ladder. And for the next question, it was support and encouragement, people having a mentor or a sponsor to help move them up the ladder. If we move on to the next slide, this is looking at what people can do to assist progression and minimize that disparity. It's set up in two categories: what you can do for yourself, and also what your organization can do. And so requesting the stretch progress and recording highlighting your achievements are there, but we can see that people are saying actually what they need is someone to support them and ensure that they move up the ladder. So these slides will be available after this event, and it will be the takeaway from today for you should be, what can you yourself do? What can your organization do? And how are you going to push or press them to make a difference? That's the end of the introduction element of this webinar, and I am delighted to present Linky van der Merwe, who is going to do a presentation on strategic integration of social media to make it future fit for practice. So I'll hand you over to Linky, who will do a brief introduction of herself. So I wouldn't do that at this point.
Thank you very much, Teri. I'm glad to be here. And I want to start by saying the most reliable way to anticipate the future is to understand the present. That's a quote by John Naisbitt, a futurist and author of Megatrend. To help us understand the present better, we will be covering the following topics. Firstly, we'll have a look at the landscape of social media. We'll look at social media functionality by means of a honeycomb model. We'll look at a framework for setting up your own social media strategy. Then we'll cover a few use cases for bringing social media onto your own projects. Then I'll be sharing some interesting research with you around smartphone apps for projects. We'll look at the benefits of bringing social media onto your projects, as well as the barriers that you can expect to overcome. And then lastly, I'll be sharing a few ideas of how you can raise your personal profiles on social media. Thanks very much for this privilege to be with you today. Teri asked me to give you a brief insight into my own career journey as a project manager in South Africa and how I support up-and-coming project managers. Well, as a newlywed, I went to the UK for 2 years after my studies, and I worked there in temporary positions. But when I started my real career back in South Africa, I started out as a project administrator, and then I moved to become a server engineer, a MCSE as it was called, and I had a permanent position in IT at a big financial services company in South Africa. I moved into full-time project management in 1999, being a project management professional, or a PMP as it's called, for the past 14 years, which opened many doors for me. I trained numerous project managers on their PMP prep exams, as well as foundational and advanced courses to project managers. I had the privilege to work at Microsoft Consulting Services for 6 years, where I could continue to hone my skills based on best practice. I also worked in IT outsource company, in telecommunications, and for the past 3.5 years as an IT program manager in retail at Woolworths in South Africa. There I also had the opportunity to work on international projects for David Jones with virtual teams from Australia, India, the UK, and Cape Town. That's my professional career. On a part-time basis, I'm also the founder of Virtual Project Consulting, an online management consulting company where we serve existing and aspiring project managers online by recommending resources like training, software, products, and project management events. I like to blog about project management, leadership, social media, and other related topics. I also do reviews of project management books, software, training, and products. And since 2012, I've been running with my friend Louise Woosley with the Success Story Shared initiative, where we gather project stories through interviews with experienced project managers, and we publish them online on our blogs to give a wider project management audience access to those. On a personal level, I'm happily married for 24 years, and I have 3 children aged 19, 16, and 13. My social media journey started in 2009 when I had to find free ways to market my business, Virtual Project Consulting, because I wanted to build online visibility, credibility, and trust. In my experience, the best way was through social media and syndication of my blogging activities to my social media channels. I do that to this day. Then I've turned my social media research to the industry that I serve, namely project management practitioners. I was on a mission to find out if there's any value in bringing social media onto projects and what the expected benefits would be. I published numerous articles and gave talks about the use of social media on projects, as well as the slide doc, which is a blend between a research document in slide format. And the purpose was to educate project management practitioners about the use of social media on projects, as well as how to use it to enhance your professional project management career. I wanted to know how to unlock the value and how to strategically integrate it with projects and to make it part of your communications plan. Then I received an invitation as a contributing author to the book Strategic Integration of Social Media into the Project Management Practice. And today, I will share with you research and models from this book, which I believe you will find very useful. Let me start by sharing where I use social media on projects. I use it across different projects, but especially when working with virtual teams on international projects. We use audio and video conferences and instant messaging using Skype for Business. We use WhatsApp to create groups within the project team who need to have lots of conversations around specific topics, for example, testing, and especially if it's a distributed team. We use SharePoint for project team sites and as a document repository. We also have access to Yammer, but it's not that well adopted. Then I listen to podcasts, which there are plenty of good podcasts out there on leadership and project management topics and any topic you would be interested in. And on LinkedIn, I use it to connect with team members, stakeholders, or vendors. And I'm a member of numerous groups where I have access to experts. I like to attend virtual conferences, especially the one that's called PM Expo, an annual virtual event that's hosted by projectmanagement.com. I attend webinars or co-host webinars like this one. And then I also use project and portfolio management tools, and I'm a partner for a tool called ITM Platform, which has a built-in social media for team collaboration. Now, before we continue, I would like to do a poll so that we can get an indication of how many people use social media today on a personal and professional level and on projects.
So this poll is entitled, Are you using social media today? Thank you very much. The poll results are now in. Personally had 51%, professionally had 21%, on projects had 18%. For the fourth option, personally and professionally, but not on projects, was 38%, and none of the above was 11%.
Thank you so much. That is good to have those type of statistics from our audience. And we can see that most people today are using social media for personal reasons, but not necessarily on projects. So let's start with the first research. This comes from a chapter in the book called Analyzing the Landscape Social Media by Gilbert Silvius from the University of Applied Sciences in the Netherlands. The logical applications for social media and project management are in the areas of stakeholder engagement and team collaboration, with most benefit to international projects with geographically dispersed teams. It's essential for project managers to understand the regional and generational differences in the social media landscape. For example, in China, they've banned Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Dropbox. And in the German-speaking countries like Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, LinkedIn is not the leading social platform. It's actually Xing who has more members than LinkedIn. So the main message really is that it is not a unified social media landscape out there. And as project managers, we need to recognize the differences in social media use in order to come up with an effective social media strategy. Kitzman introduced us to an all-embracing framework that defines social media by using 7 building blocks called the honeycomb. So in the table, it provides a short description of each of the building blocks with some social media platform examples. So the observation here is that different social media provide different functionality And no single social media site will provide all functionality. Therefore, a project manager who wants to apply social media on your projects, you should develop a social media strategy which is a mix of social media that provide the required functionalities together. Werder in 2014 suggested a framework for the development of a social media strategy consisting of 3 components: scope, capabilities, and governance. If you start on the left where it says scope, that refers to actors, the people using it, their interactions on social media, and the platforms that are being addressed in the strategy. Capabilities refer to the objectives and the activities of the use of social media and how that supports the project objectives. Governance refers to the measuring, evaluating and directing of the social media activities, as well as managing the risks associated with it. So this is a good framework to use to come up with your own social media strategy on projects. This table indicates the usage of social media globally, and it's showing the 18th largest online social media networks and their countries of origin. The number of active social media accounts is estimated to have passed 2 billion, equaling about 30% of Earth's population and about 2/3 of internet users, according to Parcells. In research conducted by Global Web Index, they suggested that the average social media user spends 2 hours and 25 minutes per day using social networks and microblogs. Hard to believe. And according to the statistics portal, statistica.com, Facebook continues to be the largest global social network measured by the number of active accounts of users. So the table shows us that many of the largest originate from the United States, but that their Chinese equivalents are on the rise. Since 2014, the fastest growing social media sites were Pinterest, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Snapchat. The trend in the use of social media is the use of multiple platforms. So Facebook users would also be on LinkedIn and Twitter and possibly Instagram and Pinterest. Next, we look at the penetration of use by country. This table shows that there are significant differences in the penetration of social media between countries. The reasons for this may be technical, for example, the internet or broadband penetration, or it could be economical, which is related to the affordability of internet devices and access, or it could be social, related to social values or traditions. So it illustrates that the geographical differences in social media use do exist, and this is something that we need to take into account when we use social media on international projects. The source for the generational and gender view is from Duggan in 2015. And according to a social media update from the Pew Research Center, they summarize the usage figure as percentage of internet users for the social networks Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. And what you see here is that in general, the older generations, age 55 and up, are less active on social media than the professional active generations. So although the younger generations are most active, the 65 plus generation is the fastest growing age group in terms of social media usage. Now the younger generations shift their activities from Facebook to newer social media, such as Instagram, Snapchat, and Pinterest, in order not to be exposed to their parents and grandparents who are also now active on Facebook. In terms of gender, women are more active on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, and men have a slightly higher usage of professional networks, LinkedIn, and on Twitter. Just a disclaimer here is that in the quickly developing market of social media platforms, the usage data and statistics are constantly changing, and it's practically impossible to stay completely up to date. So these figures, could be dated by now. Now let's look at a few use cases for the use of social media on projects. The source of this is The Effects of Social Media on Project Management by Mark Sponsley from the Netherlands. Remember, each social media application has its own character. So when we go through the different functionalities and use cases, you'll find the use cases and then also samples of social media tools, as well as the processes that they are, the project management processes that they are part of. So the first functionality is identity, the extent to which users reveal themselves. So here we look at a use case like profile pages on social media. When project team members fill in their profiles on social media, LinkedIn, they provide insight into their personality and skills to colleagues. So that they can introduce themselves to other project team members and stakeholders by referring to their social media profiles. And it's really good to know their backgrounds, the competencies of the project team, and match that to the responsibilities on the project. The next use case, recruiting project resources. You will know by now that LinkedIn allows people to fully reveal their personal profile, their working career, knowledge areas, and educational history. This is very useful information when projects are searching for competent specialists during the recruitment process. On the next use case, you'll see the research on potential stakeholders and suppliers. Social media allow people to execute background research on people and companies. So it makes it possible to determine the identity of potential suppliers, which is valuable information during public tenders and the supplier selection processes. The next functionality is conversations. Now, here are plenty of social media possibilities for short video chats. You can use WhatsApp, Google Chat, Skype for Business, Yammer. They all allow 24/7 chat communication between project team members, stakeholders, and that's independent of the location of people. So on the next one, content-related discussions, you need to have a discussion around specific like mitigation measures for project risks or the desired design of a product. You can have a short and quick discussion between two people. Or you can use video chat applications for online solicitations, where you can have this conversation with people in other countries and therefore saving time and travel costs. The third functionality is about sharing. Now, this is an ever-present challenge, is for project content and status updates to be all in one central location. We want to share documents, presentations, and exchange and distribute that. And all of this is possible on social media so that project team members can work together, even when they are separated by location. It gives you a central place where project team members and stakeholders can stay up to date on progress, project issues, and achievements, and it's always accessible. The next use case, product and document reviews. On several social media applications, it's possible to work together when drafting documentation, so people can co-produce and review each other's products and documents. And then the use case of knowledge of the crowd. With social media, it's possible to use the full thinking power of all project team members. For instance, when you have project risks and quality issues, you can share that on SharePoint, Yammer, and you use the knowledge of the crowd to work out solutions and come up with quick fixes. The next functionality, presence, is the extent to which users know if others are available. The use case to retrieve availability and the location of resources. In projects, it's relevant to know if and when project team members are available and where they are located. In the case of questions or discussing risks and quality concerns, you want to know who can be contacted when and where that person is. With social media applications like WhatsApp, Skype for Business, and Yammer, it will indicate whether people are currently online and when they were online for the last time. So you can start a conversation immediately either via social media or in person. The next use case is working remotely, independent of time, location, and device. Social media can bring people together despite of the geographical distribution of project team members and stakeholders, and it can support working remotely. So people can be available 24/7, also in case of project emergencies, even when they're at home or while traveling. As an example, for one of my own projects, when we worked in South Africa with project team members in India and Australia, we had a big time difference, and the only time we could have our meetings was early in the morning for us and end of the day for the people in Australia. And I used to have to take these calls while traveling to work. Social media makes this possible because you use Skype for Business and you can be on a call with between 5 and 15 other people while traveling. I took many calls on the bus and even took notes with a laptop on my lap. The next functionality is relationships. That's the extent to which users relate to each other. It can give you insight into relationships. For project managers, it's valuable to know who is related to who. Relationships can be either internal or external to the project team. LinkedIn, Facebook, and Yammer are all examples of social media that provides detailed insight, whether a person is related to another, and you can then get introduced through that existing relationship. Then you can use it to engage stakeholders. Project information, progress, and delivered products can be shared on social media. And this way, it makes it possible for stakeholders to stay informed about the status of the project. Goodwill and support from resources and stakeholders can be ensured, and that will improve your chances for project success. The next functionality is reputation, the extent to which users know the social standing of others and content. So here we talk about project pages which can be installed on SharePoint, LinkedIn, Yammer, or ITM platform. You can tell the world about the project, what you're working on, what you're delivering, and when, if it's not confidential. Then you can also use it for project ambassadors. People on the team can act as ambassadors, especially people with many endorsements, likes, followers, and recommendations, because through social media, they can reach many people. And this will help you with project promotion. The last functionality is groups, the extent to which users are ordered or form communities. Now you can group your stakeholders into groups around certain products or subjects, and then you can provide targeted communication to those specific groups using tools like WhatsApp, SharePoint, or Yammer. Last use case is the cooperation between project team members. On sites like SharePoint, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Yammer, and others, it allows users to form communities, also in Slack channels. And these can be groups that are open to anyone, closed where approval is required, or secret by invitation only. And within these groups, members can build and share documentation and status updates and start discussions around any topics that they need. So I hope that you found this valuable, the use cases for using social media on projects. And next we're going to move to a section about the research that was done on smartphone apps for project management. It comes from the chapter Smart Project Management Smartphone Apps by Celine Silvius from the UK and Gilbert Silvius from the Netherlands. Firstly, the operating system platforms for smartphones and tablets are mostly on iOS from Apple, Android from Google, and in a distance, Windows from Microsoft. But the study focused on iOS and Android platforms. About 300 project management apps were identified in each store, and then they selected the 75 most prominent apps for the study, and they developed this framework on the type of functionality, the project management processes supported, the methodology supported, is it accessible through a website, in what language, what are the project roles supported, like your PM, sponsor, or team members, and what topics are covered, how many team members can access it, and how many simultaneous projects can be on these apps. What the study findings were is that the availability of apps is still platform dependent. Of the 75 apps in the sample, only 61% are available on both the iOS and Android platforms, but there may be version differences. Professionalism, functional and technical support for apps differ hugely because some are being developed as experimental by entrepreneurs, or others would be professional products and extensions of professional project management products. A substantial number of project management apps are additions to web-based project management tools. The apps typically support the roles of the project manager and team members based on a generic approach to project management. Collaboration and communication within the project team appears to be the most frequently found functionality in the apps. The most covered process groups are planning and organizing and controlling and monitoring. So the functionality of project management apps today is mainly focused on two application areas. And those are in the image below. To support the role of the project manager individually in planning and organizing processes of the project, and the support of team communication and team collaboration in executing, monitoring, and controlling processes of the project. The most professional apps in the study were developed as additions to web-based project management tools or collaboration platforms. And examples of those are Asana, Basecamp, Project Place, and ITM Platform. Now let's have a look at the benefits that you can expect when you use social media on projects. It helps to enable real-time project information to your project team members and stakeholders. Social media supports iterative and incremental project management approaches such as Agile, which are gaining ground, and project management tools like ITM Platform has a Kanban board and social media collaboration as built-in features to support Agile. It also improves project efficiency because it facilitates the creation of groups and communities where people are offered a central place to discuss, share, and build information. Social media simplify remote working, which is a trend within organizations to allow employees to do their work at home and while traveling, while they can access information at all times. Social media also facilitates project and personal branding. With its enormous reach, it can increase the project visibility and it may contribute to a positive project reputation. It will also stimulate content-related discussions and the sharing of knowledge and experience between users. An outcome of this is that the knowledge of the crowd is used instead of only the limited knowledge of one person. Now let's have a look at the barriers to adopting social media on projects. This comes from the source Barriers to Social Media Adoption on Projects by Elizabeth Harron from the United Kingdom. She used research by MOT, Sloan Management Review, as well as her own research that she conducted through surveys, and she highlighted several common barriers to adopting social business models. The main barriers are the lack of overall strategy. So this is where, even where social media strategies are present, they're often only externally facing, like for your official corporate Twitter feeds or blogs. There's a lack of senior management sponsorship because of the busyness and lack of willingness to invest time in understanding social tools and the value that they add. There's also a lack of a proven business case. Given that the benefits of social media are often intangible, how do you measure increased collaboration? Then there are security concerns. IT departments and PMOs should be concerned with how to keep project data safe and auditable. There's connection overload and dealing with information from additional communication channels. Then there's also concerns about personal and private boundaries and the fading line between work and private. Knowledge workers are rarely 9 to 5 employees who switch off as soon as they leave the office. But the more important question is how to address these barriers. The answers to that is, for any strategy to be successful, you need to allocate appropriate resources to the implementation and delivery of it. Without that, the strategy will just be a documented wish list. You need to put in place a sponsor who can champion and support the initiative and who will be responsible for the implementation. The majority of organizations address the lack of a business case by not requiring the social media deployment projects to track the benefits. Social media is often seen as a right to play rather than something that will provide a tangible return on investment. You need to address security through having proper access controls, backups, audit trails, authorized software, system policies, and social media protocols to tell people what may and what may not be shared on social media. You can address the root causes of feeling overloaded, like lack of control, by using applications that people are already familiar with. You can tell them, for the fear of looking foolish, that there's always the learning curve for any new tools. The risk of ambiguity is that data in this social environment can potentially be very unstructured and vague. And then there's also the conflicting priorities, because there are now more channels that the team needs to deal with. Project leaders should model acceptable behavior, and project managers should lead by example. So, in conclusion, remember that the millennials and subsequent generations will be the project stakeholders and still expect the use of social media tools and a full integration with their personal cloud. And we've seen now the benefits of working in a collaborative and social way. Lastly, I just want to take you through a few ideas of how you can raise your personal profiles on social media. You can connect with industry thought leaders who are willing to collaborate and mentor, because that can play a vital role in building up the project management knowledge in organizations. On Twitter, you can follow great project managers who are willing to learn and share. And you will see there are hashtags like pmot that you can do searches on, and that stands for project managers on Twitter. If you connect with me on Twitter, you'll find that I have lists for leadership and project managers that you can also find more people. Then there's LinkedIn. Just make sure that your personal profile is complete, because nowadays LinkedIn is like your online resume. So it should be in line with your own resume. And then you can join several project management groups and start participating there. On blogs, you can spend a few minutes daily to read and comment on your favorite blogs, and you can participate in the conversation, because that's a great way to contribute to the community yourself. Then you can also build communities with Facebook or Google. Just find groups where you are comfortable sharing from your own experience and where you feel safe to ask questions and make your own contributions. Don't just observe, try to participate. So some good practices is just to be patient, and before long you will be participating and building relationships. Don't forget about project management podcasts and YouTube, which has videos about every possible topic under the sun. Just be consistent, and when you're too busy, just dip in and out quickly and make it a habit to check it out at least weekly. The resources that I used for this talk is from the book from Gilbert Silvius, A Strategic Integration of Social Media and Project Management Practice. You'll find a link to the book on my website. This was pro bono work. I don't get any income from sales, but you will see there that you can also buy chapters individually if you're interested. And there's a reference to Rohit Bhargava's book, The Non-Obvious Report 2018, How to Predict Trends and Win the Future. And then I made reference to ITM Platform, which is a project portfolio management cloud-based software with built-in social media collaboration tools. There are my details if you would like to connect, and it will be really great to welcome you into our community. And now there's time for questions.
One of the questions that came in is, could you please kindly repeat the PM social media tool names?
Okay, so the ones that were given as recommendations based on the study. Examples I called out are Asana, Basecamp, Project Place, ITM platform. They all have apps that are available across the two platforms.
On a project where regular or weekly technical meetings are held, how would social media improve project oversight? So what sort of social media platform would you suggest for such a project meeting where there are those regular or weekly technical meetings?
Okay, so they're asking what social media tools you could use for that. On our international projects, we use tools like Jira and Confluence, where we're meeting with team members who are in different locations, and that way you can share the minutes immediately afterwards, and you can tag people so they receive notifications if there's an action against their name. So, and this is just one tool, but there are numerous tools like that one could also bring onto your projects that would fall into social media tool as well as project and portfolio management type tools.
How do you suggest introducing PMBOK in a male-dominated institute?
Well, it's a strange question to me because it's not about introducing PMBOK. It's really about aligning whatever methodologies or processes that you're using in your organization. If you align that with PMBOK and you base it on PMBOK, you will ensure that you've got adherence to best practices that are part of those processes in the PMBOK. So it's not really about selling them on PMBOK as much as it is ensuring that whatever methodology or approach you choose, that it is aligned with that. And this is if PMBOK is what you want to align with, which is obviously the PMI's body of knowledge, but then there's also APM. They've got their own PMBOK, which has more processes. So I think it's just a matter of how you align it and giving people the assurance that you rather want to base the way they work on standard practices and practices that have been proven to work and give you consistent outcomes.
Going back to the podcast, what podcast for project management would you recommend? Have you had any really engaging ones?
Well, yes, I have, but unfortunately I don't have it in front of me, but off the cuff, PMI recently started their own podcast, which I find is really of very good quality. There's Cornelius Fichtner's podcast, which I've been following for years. There are one or two more, but I don't have it in front of me, but I'm happy to distribute it to the audience afterwards.
I think this will now be our last question, and it is about what rules you should follow for social media. So do you know or do you follow any legislation or basic rules for the use of social media in relation to projects and project work?
That is not really something that you can give as a recipe because it depends on the organization where you are at. And it falls within that spectrum of security where if you're working on products that have confidentiality attached to them, you wouldn't use social media that's open to the public. Everything needs to stay within your company's network. Therefore, you would choose social media tools that you can use within your company network, for example, Skype for Business, Yammer, and you wouldn't use tools like LinkedIn and Facebook. But let's say you're a non-profit organization or you're working in organizations where there is a public interest and public-facing projects, then you could potentially use the other channels because of the fact that it offers group functionality and you can keep it private to members only. Then, as long as you're clear on what the governance is at your organization and what's allowed and what the social media protocols are, and you work that into your strategy for your project. It's just important to remember it's not only one tool that will give you everything. You will end up with a combination of 1, 2, 3, or 4 tools, which you can then use together to give you the functionality that you require for your projects.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid that's all we have time for today. First of all, from Teri, and as an introduction, and then from yourself, Linky. So thank you very much indeed. There are one or two questions that we didn't get to, so apologies for that. I'd just like to end today, which is International Women's Day, 8th of March, by saying thank you both again, and also please do go to the APM website if you are available on the 25th of September in London for the Women in Project Management SIG's annual conference, which this year is on the theme of empowerment. Also, within the website on the community tab, there is the Wippen SIG area, and please do follow that if you haven't already. And just thank you all very much for your engagement and support today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.